After my daughter's arrogant groom tried to publicly humiliate me at their wedding reception, I let him learn the true cost of disrespect. He demanded I sit outside in the snow, unaware he was insulting a multimillionaire who had just gifted his new wife everything. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. I sat alone at the small table, watching the door. The hostess had already approached with an apologetic smile, her menu tucked under her arm. 20 minutes had passed since the agreed-upon time. I shook my head, gripping my phone tighter. "He'll be here," I told myself. "He won't miss a chance to perform." Around me, the downtown Denver restaurant hummed with a low, confident energy. Expensive business suits leaned across white tablecloths. Laughter rolled out in practiced, careful waves. I'd built Hicks Auto Service from nothing over 40 years, a dozen locations strong, but none of that showed today. My casual clothes were clean and pressed, my hands scrubbed, but I knew what I looked like, a man who worked, waiting on a man who talked. My 15-year-old Ford F-150 sat in the polished parking garage, a solid, reliable shadow in a sea of gleaming luxury cars. The door swung open, and the silence broke. Nicholas walked in first, radiating an entitlement that had no price tag. Cora trailed half a step behind him. No apology in his stride, just a practiced slowness. His suit was armor, expensive fabric draped perfectly. He raised a hand to signal the hostess, catching the light on his watch. She rushed over. "Reservation for Whitmore," he stated, dismissing her with a glance. Cora spotted me and waved, her smile too bright, too nervous. They crossed the room. Nicholas extended his hand without meeting my eyes, his grip brief and dismissive. "Orval, traffic was murder." He pulled back quickly, as if my calloused palm might be contagious. I stood, met his gaze, and forced a smile that felt tight. "Nicholas, good to finally meet you." Cora leaned in for a hug. Her perfume was expensive, unfamiliar. "Hi, Dad. Thanks for coming all the way downtown." We settled into the chairs. Nicholas placed his BMW keys and phone beside his plate, a casual display of status. The waiter appeared instantly. Nicholas ordered a scotch, neat, naming the brand like it was a test of the waiter's worth. Cora asked for wine. I requested water. Nicholas glanced at me, something flickering across his face. Amusement, maybe pity. "Come on, Orval, have a drink, celebrate our treat." "Water's fine." Cora launched into wedding talk, desperately filling the silence with venue options and color schemes. Nicholas listened with half his attention, his eyes wandering, checking who else was watching us. When she paused, he turned to me, the question landing soft but deliberate. "So, what do you do, Orval?" Cora's spine went rigid. "I work in automotive repair. Been doing it 40 years. His posture shifted. The smile changed, gained edges. "Oh, a mechanic. That's honest work." The pause before honest carried the weight of a heavy object dropped on glass. Cora jumped in too fast, a desperate defense. "Dad's really good at what he does." "I'm sure he is, honey." Nicholas draped his arm across the back of her chair. "Everyone has their place in the economy. Someone's got to keep our cars running, right?" He laughed, a short, controlled, superior sound. Cora laughed with him, not meeting my eyes. Her hand found his on the table, a tiny gesture of alliance against me. Nicholas ordered something elaborate from the most expensive section of the menu. Cora chose the salmon. When my turn came, I scanned the prices and selected the pasta, the second cheapest item available. Nicholas gestured broadly. "Don't be shy, Orval. Get whatever you want. Don't worry about the price." His generosity felt like a test, one I was determined to pass by not needing his money. "Pasta sounds perfect." Throughout the meal, Nicholas dominated. He spoke about his financial consulting firm and clients, his vocabulary changing when addressing me. Simpler words, slower explanations. People who work with their hands versus people who work with their minds. It's just different skill sets, you know. Both important, just different. Cora nodded along, her embarrassment radiating across the table. Nicholas pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages, and angled the screen away from me, a subtle but sharp exclusion. "We'll keep the budget reasonable," he said, still scrolling. "Don't want anyone feeling stretched." His eyes flicked to me when he said it, the meaning crystallized in the air between us. Speaking of which, we should probably handle most of the planning ourselves. Keep things simple. Your dad probably doesn't have experience with these higher-end venues and vendors. No offense, Orval, just being practical. None taken. Cora, however, took offense for him, her cheeks flushing. Nick's right, Dad. We've got it under control. You don't need to worry about anything. Just show up and enjoy. I cut into my pasta, chewing slowly, and watched my daughter choose her side in real time. The decision I'd been weighing all evening solidified. I needed to see how far this disrespect would run. I'll be there, I said, looking directly at her. Wherever you need me. Always have been. The check arrived. Nicholas grabbed it instantly. I've got this one. You've probably got enough on your plate. He stressed enough. We walked to the parking lot. The evening air had cooled. Nicholas clicked his key fob and his BMW chirped twice. Then he saw my truck. That's your ride? Well, at least it runs, right? He laughed. Cora forced a nervous laugh too. I unlocked my door. Runs great, built to last. I climbed in and sat in the driveway, engine idling, watching them stand together beside his car. Nicholas leaned down, whispered something in her ear. She nodded. His BMW pulled away. She didn't look back. My phone buzzed against the console. Cora's name lit up. I let it ring twice before pulling out of the parking lot. I drove through the familiar grid of Denver streets, past one of my shops on Calumet, lights still on, past another on Federal. I passed the buildings I'd helped keep running for decades, noted them without attachment. I got home, cut the engine, and walked into the quiet house Elizabeth and I had made a life around. I sat on the couch she'd picked out, the room still looking exactly as she'd left it. The phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I waited 5 minutes before calling Cora back. Dad! Her voice carried tension like a wire pulled too tight. We need to talk about tonight. Okay, I'm listening. You can't act like that around Nicholas's business associates. Act like what? I barely said 10 words. Exactly. You were so quiet. It was awkward, Dad. Nicholas noticed. His friends will notice. These people are important for our future. I was being polite, letting you two talk about your wedding. It's not just about being polite. Frustration bled through her words. Nicholas comes from a good family. This wedding matters. I need you to understand that. She paused. Tonight you seemed uncomfortable, out of place, and that makes me uncomfortable. The accusation stung. I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at my backyard workshop. Tools organized, projects in various stages of completion. My real office. What do you want from me, Cora? I need you to blend in. Don't talk about work. Don't mention money or the lack of it. Just smile and nod and let Nicholas and his family handle things. Silence stretched between us. Outside, the neighbor's dog barked. Do you know what it's like? Her voice cracked. Constantly making excuses for having a father who's just a mechanic? Just a mechanic? The words landed like broken glass. I said nothing, letting her hear the contempt in her own voice. Dad, I'm here. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. She exhaled hard. Nicholas mentioned you seemed uncomfortable tonight. He thought maybe you'd prefer a smaller role in the wedding, less pressure on you. A smaller role in my only daughter's wedding? Don't be dramatic. We're just trying to make this work for everyone. You don't understand what this life is like. Nicholas's friends, they judge everything. I'm finally in that world, and I can't have you messing it up. I moved to the kitchen table, pulled out the notebook I kept for project notes, and started documenting every word while she talked. Here's what I'll do, I said, my voice steady as a surgeon's hand. I won't tell Nicholas about my business, won't mention numbers or success. I'll let him think exactly what he thinks now. Relief flooded through the phone. Really? You'll do that? On one condition. She hesitated. What condition? You give me time. Let me see how Nicholas treats a father-in-law he thinks is beneath him. Watch how he acts when he believes I'm nobody. Really watch him, Cora. Then ask yourself who you're marrying. Fine, she said. But you'll see. Nicholas is great once you get to know him. Thank you, Dad. This means so much. She didn't understand what she'd just consented to, her own father's test. I finished writing. Observe dynamics. Document everything. I poured myself a rare glass of whiskey. On the mantel, a photograph showed Cora at 10 years old, both of us covered in motor oil, laughing. That girl knew who her father was. The woman marrying Nicholas didn't know me at all anymore. I made my decision. I would play the role of the poor mechanic perfectly. I would give her every chance to wake up before it was too late. And if she didn't wake up, I would build a lesson that was just as solid as my business. My phone buzzed on the table. Text message, unknown number. Orval, this is Linda Whitmore, Nicholas's mother. We'd like you to join us for wedding planning next month, May 15th, our home. 6 p.m. Sharp. Sharp. Even the mother was starting with subtle jabs. I read it twice, let the implications settle, and then type back. I'll be there. 3 weeks passed like slow water running over polished stone. May 15th arrived with clear skies and the GPS guiding me through Cherry Hills Village. The streets curved through neighborhoods where homes started at $2 million and climbed from there. Private security signs stood like sentries on manicured lawns. The Whitmore residence spread across its lot like a declaration. 2-story colonial white columns, a circular driveway wide enough for 3 cars. I parked my F-150 behind Nicholas's BMW and a silver Mercedes SUV that probably belonged to his parents. I cut the engine and sat for a moment, studying the house that had raised the man my daughter was determined to marry. I walked to the front door and rang the bell. Chimes echoed a classical melody inside. Linda Whitmore opened the door, looked past me to the F-150, her eyebrows rising a fraction. "You found us, come in." No greeting, no handshake, just acknowledgement and dismissal in the same breath. The interior screamed wealth louder than the exterior. Crystal chandeliers hung from 12-foot ceilings. Marble floors reflected light from windows dressed in silk curtains. Art covered the walls, the kind you see behind velvet ropes. Everything was positioned perfectly. Nothing was out of place, and nothing felt comfortable. The living room opened to my right. Everyone was already seated. Nicholas and Robert Whitmore in matching leather armchairs. Cora and Linda on a cream sofa that looked too expensive to actually sit on. Wedding planner materials were spread across the coffee table. Venue photos, catering menus, flower arrangements. One seat remained. A stiff dining chair brought in from another room, placed slightly apart from the grouping, an obvious afterthought. I took it without comment. "Now that we're all here," Linda began, her tone suggesting I'd kept them waiting despite arriving exactly at 6 p.m. "We've narrowed the venue options. The Fairmont Manor in Aurora. It's where proper families celebrate." Robert nodded, his silver hair perfectly styled. "We waited 3 months to get that date. They don't take just anyone." The conversation flowed around me. Flowers, music, ceremony timing. I listened, noted details, and stayed quiet, playing my role exactly as promised. Then Linda shifted topics. Budget. Nicholas mentioned $50,000 total, very reasonable for a wedding of this caliber. I saw my opening. I leaned forward. "I'd like to contribute, help with costs." The room went silent. Nicholas exchanged glances with his parents. Something quick as electricity passed between them. Nicholas smiled, condescending and practiced. "That's thoughtful, Orval, but we've got this covered. Wouldn't want you to stretch yourself." Linda leaned forward, her voice dripping false sweetness. "How sweet that working people want to help, too. But this is rather expensive, Orval. Perhaps you could handle something smaller. The guest book, maybe." Robert set his drink down, ice clinking against the crystal. "So, this auto shop of yours, how many employees? Just you and maybe one other guy?" "It's bigger than that. Been building it for decades." Robert laughed. Actual laughter like I'd told a joke. "Building? That's optimistic. Most small shops barely break even. Overhead, insurance, equipment costs. You're probably just treading water." Nicholas joined in, tag teaming. "Cora mentioned you do oil changes, brake work, basic stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Someone has to do it." Cora sat beside him, studying her phone screen, pretending the conversation wasn't happening. Her silence cut deeper than their words. I watched my daughter choose invisibility over defending me. Linda stood. I'll get coffee." She left the room. I leaned forward, examining the wedding materials on the table. The Fairmont Manor brochure showed gardens and ballrooms. Price sheets were tucked inside. I filed the $50,000 total away. Robert stood too. "Let me show you the study." I followed him down a hallway lined with family photographs. His study featured a wall of business awards, plaques, and framed photos with local politicians. A subtle flex showing me what success looked like in his world. 23 years building my consulting firm, he said, gesturing broadly. Started with nothing. Well, almost nothing. Had some family connections. Made something of myself. Impressive. You understand the pressure. Providing for family, maintaining standards. Nicholas learned from watching me. He knows what it takes. We returned to the living room. Linda served coffee in fine china cups, delicate things with gold trim. Everyone got matching sets except me. She handed me a plain ceramic mug, the kind contractors use on job sites. She didn't apologize or explain. She just set it on the side table near my afterthought chair and moved on. The heat rose in my face, but I kept my hand steady, focusing on the dark liquid. Don't let them see it. The evening wound toward its conclusion. Nicholas pulled out his laptop and opened a file. We're doing something interesting with the seating arrangement. He turned the screen toward his parents and Cora, angling it away from me. I saw the edge of a floor plan. Premium guests, business contacts, family, friends will have the main floor, best view of the ceremony, closest to the reception area. He pointed to another section I couldn't quite see. And we'll have a separate area for everyone else, more casual. Linda nodded approvingly. It's about maintaining standards, you understand? Nicholas looked directly at me for the first time all evening. You'll be comfortable there, Orval. Less formal, less pressure to, keep up appearances. I understood perfectly. They were segregating me, publicly marking me as lesser, creating physical distance to match the social distance they'd already established. I stood. I should go. Thank you for having me. Polite handshakes all around. Cora walked me to the door. She wouldn't meet my eyes. It'll be a beautiful wedding, I said. Thanks for understanding, Dad. About the seating, it's just logistics. Sure. I walked to my truck, climbed in, and started the engine. The familiar rumble, a solid presence. The Whitmore house lit up behind me like a stage set. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Marcus Chen's contact. 15 years of business together. Every contract and property deal ran through his office. I hovered my thumb over his name. The porch light flicked off behind me. The Whitmores were done with me for the night. I tapped the screen. One ring. Marcus, it's Orval. I need to see you tomorrow. It's important. The next afternoon, I walked into Marcus Chen's law office, 16 floors above downtown Denver. The reception area was understated, professional, the kind of firm that handles serious business without needing marble floors to prove it. Marcus's office overlooked the city I'd worked in for 40 years. He stood when I entered, concern crossing his face. Orval, sit. What's happening? I took the chair across from his desk and laid it all out methodically. The engagement, Nicholas, his parents, the escalating disrespect, and Cora's willing silence. Marcus listened, taking notes on a legal pad, his expression shifting from concern to professional understanding. You want to protect Cora, he said when I finished. From herself, from a mistake she can't see yet. He set his pen down. What are you thinking? Transfer ownership of all 12 Hicks Auto Service locations to Cora as a wedding gift, with a condition. If the marriage dissolves within 3 years, everything reverts to me. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's a conditional gift deed with a reverter clause. Legal in Colorado, but complicated. We're talking about what? $8.5 million in total business value, approximately. He pulled out a fresh legal pad and started sketching structures. Timing is critical. If Nicholas discovers this before the wedding, he'll treat Cora very differently. Are you sure you want that reveal to happen after? I'm sure. Marcus drew more connections. We prepare the documents now, but date them to take effect the day after the wedding. That protects Cora's ownership from any claims Nicholas might make during the engagement. Also establishes clear proof this is your property, gifted voluntarily, not a marital asset. How aggressive is the 3-year clause, I asked. Very. Most conditional gifts use 5 or 10 years. You're banking on Nicholas showing his true nature quickly. Marcus studied me for a long moment. Orval, this is a sophisticated legal trap. If Nicholas realizes what you've done, he could claim you manipulated Cora. Are you prepared for her to hate you if this backfires? I'm prepared for her to understand eventually, I said, looking out at the city below. Right now, she can't see what she's walking into, but money has a way of revealing character. He nodded slowly. 2 weeks for a complete draft. Then we'll need notarization, witness signatures, the full process. Do it. We shook hands. I left his office feeling purposeful, a plan set in motion. Later that week, I was at my flagship location in Littleton, 12 bays running steady with afternoon work, 23 employees moving through their routines. James Sullivan arrived to pick up his company vehicle. I'd held the fleet service contract for Summit Properties Group for 5 years now. He found me in the office, reviewing invoices. Orval, vehicle ready, just finishing the paperwork. Walk with me. We moved through the facility, past technicians working under hydraulic lifts. James took in the scale of it. Your operation here is impressive. 12 locations now. I remember when you had 3. Growth takes time. He paused. Nicholas knows what you've built, right? Cora's fiancé. I handed him his keys. Nicholas knows I work in auto repair. That's enough for him. James pocketed the keys, hesitated. Funny you mentioned Nicholas. Got a wedding invitation from him. Says he's marrying into your family. July 21st, the Fairmont Manor. Interesting. He shifted his weight. Nicholas invited half the business community trying to impress someone. Called me twice about investment opportunities, networking hard. I filed that information away, thanked James for his business, and watched him drive off. Then I made a call. Marcus, can you run a discreet financial background check on Nicholas Whitmore? Legal consideration for potential family business matters. I'll have something by Monday. Monday came. Marcus called with the results. Nicholas had taken a $45,000 personal loan 2 months ago. The Fairmont Manor appeared on the lending documents as collateral justification. He was drowning in debt to throw a wedding that served as social capital, using Cora as his entry ticket to the business circles he wanted to penetrate. The irony tasted sharp. Nicholas mocked my finances while leveraging $45,000 of borrowed money for appearances. Everything I'd suspected was confirmed in black and white. That evening, I drove past the Fairmont Manor. Nicholas's BMW sat in the parking lot. He was inside, finalizing details he couldn't afford, spending money he didn't have to impress people who'd forget him the moment the open bar closed. 3 weeks later, I was back in Marcus's office. The documents were ready. A thick stack of legal papers, notary seal prepared. Marcus spread them across the conference table, pages fanned out like playing cards. Sign here, here, and here. He pointed to the mark tabs. The moment Cora signs her marriage certificate, these become active. She'll own everything. I picked up the pen, my hand steady. Marcus watched me. You're giving away $8.5 million on a bet that Nicholas will prove you right. I signed the first page. Not a bet, Marcus. A certainty. The weeks after signing the documents passed in careful preparation. 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang while I was reviewing inventory at my Aurora location. Nicholas's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Background noise leaked through. A printer running, faint colleague chatter. Orval, we need to discuss logistics for the wedding. No greeting, no courtesy, just commands delivered like I worked for him. I'm listening. That truck of yours, the F-150, you can't drive that to the Fairmont Manor. It'll look terrible in the parking lot. I said nothing, let the silence stretch. And please dress appropriately. Rent a suit if you need to, something that doesn't scream budget. Each word was calculated to wound, delivered with casual cruelty. I kept my voice level. I'll arrive in what I drive. I'll wear what I own. His tone sharpened, cutting through the background noise. You don't understand. My business partners will be there. Investors. People who matter. I don't want them thinking I've married into poverty. Is that clear enough? He paused, breathing hard. Cora deserves better than being associated with someone who fixes cars for a living. Do you have any idea what this wedding costs me? $45,000. I'm not letting you ruin it because you're too stubborn to rent a decent car for one afternoon. In the background, Cora's voice. Nick, who are you talking to? Nicholas didn't cover the phone. Your father. He's being difficult. I waited for her to defend me, to say something, anything. Just silence, then footsteps walking away. She walked away. I'll be there, I said, as I am. I hung up, pulled out my secondary phone, and stopped the recording app. Colorado is a one-party consent state, every word documented. 7 days before the wedding, Cora called in the evening. I was home, reading through the transfer documents one more time. Dad! Her voice was tight, rehearsed. I talked to Linda and Robert today about photography logistics, family photo arrangements. She rushed the next part. They suggested maybe you could stand off to the side during formal photos, just for the main shots, to keep the aesthetic cohesive. The aesthetic. My daughter was speaking their language now, parroting their values like she'd forgotten her own. It's not personal, she continued. It's just, how wedding photos are. Everyone needs to coordinate. You don't match the image we're building. Do you agree with them? I asked. The pause was the longest silence of my life. Then, I just want everything to go smoothly. Not a denial, an evasion that felt worse than a lie. You'll have your smooth wedding, I said. I'll stand wherever they tell me to stand. Thank you for understanding. I hung up before saying something I'd regret. After the call, I sat in Elizabeth's living room, the full transfer document spread across the coffee table. 12 properties valued at $8.5 million. Full ownership transferring to Cora the day after her wedding. The 3-year reversion clause was the only barrier. I picked up my phone, texted Marcus. Proceed as planned. See you at the wedding. His reply, confirmed. Papers will be ready for post-ceremony signing. 3 days before the wedding, I had my suit dry cleaned. The same simple, inexpensive navy suit from our dinner meeting. Exactly what they expected. I washed and detailed my F-150 myself. I spent 3 hours in my driveway with soap and wax and careful attention to every surface. My shop manager drove past, saw me working, and pulled over. Boss, why are you detailing your own vehicle? We've got guys for that. Some things you do yourself, I said. He drove on, confused but respectful. I checked the invitation one more time. July 21st, 4 p.m. Ceremony, the Fairmont Manor. Dress code, black tie preferred. My simple suit wouldn't meet that standard. I was counting on it. 2 days before, I drove past the manor house. The setup crew was installing lighting, arranging flowers, constructing the elaborate stage Nicholas had designed. The scale was massive, the $45,000 loan visible in every silk drape and imported rose. I picked up the finalized documents from Marcus's office personally, carried them home, and stored them in my safe. Everything I'd built, about to transfer to my daughter with a single condition that would either save her or teach her a lesson she desperately needed. The night before the wedding, I ironed my own shirt and polished my own shoes. Ritual preparation, a soldier before battle. The wedding morning arrived clear and cold. I stood in my bathroom adjusting my tie. The suit fit well enough. Clean, pressed, obviously inexpensive. Perfect. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. I'm already at the venue. Front row, aisle seat. Ready when you are. I picked up my F-150 keys. Time to see what Nicholas had planned. The Fairmont Manor sat on 20 acres of manicured grounds south of Denver, all white columns and sprawling gardens. I arrived just after 3 p.m. The parking lot told the story Nicholas wanted to sell. Luxury sedans, a few Teslas, a Maserati gleaming in the afternoon sun, and my 15-year-old Ford truck. I pulled into the circular drive. Valets in formal attire watched my approach, confusion crossing their faces. The young one stepped forward, hesitating. Sir, are you at the wedding party? I handed over my keys. Father of the bride. His expression shifted from confusion to pity. He took the keys without another word. The first cost of admission paid. I walked toward the entrance past clusters of arriving guests, designer clothes, tailored tuxedos that cost more than my mortgage had been, women in dresses worth thousands. Me, in my $200 JCPenney suit. The contrast was deliberate, visible, Exactly as planned. Nicholas positioned himself near the entrance like a politician working a crowd, greeting guests, performing his role with practiced ease. He saw me approaching. His annoyance flickered, then settled into a performance. He raised his voice so nearby guests would hear. "Orval, you made it. Wasn't sure you'd find the place." Laughter rippled through the group around him. He stepped forward, hand extended. "Everyone, this is my father-in-law. He's in automotive work." The pause before automotive work hung there, loaded with meaning. A well-dressed woman asked politely, "Which dealership?" Nicholas answered for me. "Oh, he's not in sales. He's more hands-on, repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing." He gestured toward the entrance. "Family seating is inside. They'll show you where." Dismissal was clear. Conversation over. Move along. Inside, the venue lived up to its reputation. Crystal chandeliers cascaded light across marble floors. Flowers, imported roses and orchids, filled every corner. Everything screamed expensive taste and unlimited budget. A coordinator with a clipboard approached. "Name, please." "Orval Hicks, father of the bride." She checked her list, her expression carefully neutral. "Yes, right this way." She led me through the main ballroom, past the prime seating near the front, past the middle rows, past the back rows, through a doorway into a side area. This section was still visible to the ceremony space, but clearly separated. 3 tables were set up, labeled family, bride side in generic printed cards. They were nearly adjacent to the catering entrance. Staff walked past, setting up service stations. "You'll be comfortable here," the coordinator said, overly bright. "Close to refreshments." Translation: hidden from view near the service area, out of photographs. I sat and surveyed the room through the doorway. The main floor was filling with Nicholas's guests, people radiating wealth and status. Then I spotted a familiar face. James Sullivan, 3 rows from the front in the premium section. He scanned the room, stopped when he saw me in the side area. Our eyes met across the distance. His expression changed. Confusion, then dawning realization. He knew me as a successful business owner with 12 locations. He saw me seated with budget guests near the kitchen. He stood, started moving toward me, but the coordinator's voice rang out. "Please take your seats, ceremony beginning in 5 minutes." James hesitated, sat back down, but he kept glancing toward me, the question visible on his face. "What's happening here?" I pulled out my phone, photographed my seating area, the view from my table, the generic place cards, while the main floor guests had personalized calligraphy, documentation, evidence, all of it recorded. The music started. Cora appeared in the entrance, beautiful in a white dress that probably cost $8,000. She walked down the aisle alone. Nicholas stood at the altar, beaming. No father-daughter walk, no acknowledgement of the man who'd raised her alone. I watched my daughter marry a man who demanded her father be hidden, and she'd agreed. A woman at my table, older, kind-faced, leaned over. "I'm the bride's aunt from her mother's side," she said quietly. "Apparently, we're not photogenic enough for the main floor either." "Apparently not." I spotted Marcus in the audience, 4th row center. He saw me, gave a subtle nod. The witness was in position. The officiant declared them married. Nicholas kissed Cora. They walked back down the aisle together. As they passed the doorway to the side area, Nicholas glanced toward where I sat. Our eyes met for half a second. He smirked. Then they were gone. The coordinator announced, "Cocktail hour on the terrace while we prepare the reception space." I stood. Marcus appeared beside me. "Ready?" he asked quietly. "Not yet," I said. "Let's see what he does next." The cocktail hour passed. By the time the reception began, Nicholas had worked through 3 glasses of bourbon. I watched from my corner table as he grew louder, bolder. Dinner complete, toasts finished. Nicholas stood abruptly, grabbed his drink, and gestured to his friends. "Come on, let me introduce you to my father-in-law." The group weaved through the tables toward my section. Guests noticed, conversations paused. Nicholas arrived, speaking loud enough for half the room to hear. "Gentlemen, allow me to present Orval Hicks, the finest mechanic in the Denver area." His friends laughed on cue. "He's more comfortable with grease than champagne, aren't you, Orval? Different worlds, you know." He gestured at his tuxedo, then at my simple suit. You know, Nick, one friend played along. A man who works with his hands probably feels out of place at an event like this. All this refinement, all these successful people. Nicholas nodded sagely. Exactly. Nothing wrong with knowing your place. I respect that about working class folks. They understand their limits. He made a show of loosening his bow tie. Is it hot in here, or is it just me? All these people, all this perfume. Bit suffocating. Nicholas snapped his fingers like he'd had an idea. You know what, Orval? There's a lovely courtyard outside. Might be more your speed. Fresh air, no crowd. He pointed toward the French doors leading outside through the glass. Snow was falling, heavy and thick. The outdoor thermometer displayed clearly. Farkragef. Guests realized what he was suggesting. Some laughed nervously, others looked uncomfortable. Nicholas continued, emboldened. Seriously, wouldn't you be more comfortable out there, away from all this elite company? No pressure to keep up appearances. Come on, don't be shy. The courtyard's beautiful this time of year. He emphasized elite like a weapon. I stood slowly, deliberately. I took my napkin from my lap, folded it precisely, and placed it on the table. I made eye contact with Nicholas and didn't break it. The room quieted further, sensing confrontation. I looked past Nicholas toward the head table. Cora was watching, face pale. Our eyes met across the distance. She looked down, said nothing, did nothing. That moment, her silence, crystallized everything. I turned back to Nicholas. Interesting suggestion, Nicholas. Very revealing. My tone was calm, chillingly flat. Nicholas misread it as weakness. He smirked wider. See? He gets it. He knows when he's... A voice cut across the room from the premium section, clear and sharp. Wait, hold on a minute. James Sullivan was standing at his table, staring at me, walking forward, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to disbelief. Orval. Orval Hicks. He stopped a few feet away, studying me. You're the owner of Hicks Auto Service, aren't you? The question dropped into the silence like a stone, and the entire room tilted toward the answer. The question from James Sullivan, "You're the owner of Hicks Auto Service, aren't you?" dropped into the silence like a stone, shattering the polished performance Nicholas had spent months and $45,000 building. Nicholas laughed, but it sounded hollow, desperate. What? No, he just works. He's a... James cut him off, his voice carrying the authority of a man who wrote big checks. I know him. We have contracts together. Orval Hicks. I thought that was you, but in this section I assumed... He looked around, taking in the segregated seating, the kitchen entrance, and the plain place cards, then back at me. You own Hicks Auto Service, the whole chain. 12 locations across Colorado. Nicholas turned to me, his face flushing darker than the alcohol alone would explain. What are you talking about? He's just a mechanic. Cora told me. James shook his head slowly. He doesn't fix cars. He owns the company. I've been signing checks to Hicks Auto Service for 5 years. My company's fleet contract alone is worth over $200,000 annually. The room went from quiet confrontation to outright shock. Guests started pulling out their phones, the whispers spreading like wildfire. They weren't talking about seating arrangements anymore. They were talking about money and reputation. Nicholas looked at Cora, denial fighting against dawning horror. You said he was just a mechanic. You said... Cora's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. She was trapped. Linda Whitmore's voice cut through the air, shrill from the head table. Cora, is this true? Robert stood, walking toward the group, his tablet already in his hand. The speed of their concern was all the evidence I needed. A businessman at a nearby table looked up from his phone. He's right. I'm looking at the company website. Orval Hicks, founder and CEO. Another guest, reading from LinkedIn, founded 1985, grew from single bay operation to regional chain, estimated business value $8 to $10 million. The information spread through the room like wildfire, phone to phone, whisper to whisper. Nicholas's face drained of color, visibly pale now. He looked at Cora, betrayal warring with panic. You lied. You pretended to be... Nicholas stumbled backward. His friends, who'd been laughing earlier, were now backing away, distancing themselves, studying their shoes. I spoke for the first time since standing, my voice calm, perfectly level. I didn't lie, Nicholas. I answered every question honestly. You asked what I do. I work in automotive repair. I do every day. I paused, letting that sink in. My daughter asked me not to discuss the business. I respected her wishes. I shifted my gaze to Cora, then back to Nicholas. She wanted to see how you'd treat a father-in-law you thought had nothing, and you showed us exactly who you are, Nicholas, not just me. Everyone here. Cora's face crumbled, caught between the two narratives she'd helped create. Nicholas tried desperately to recover. This is a misunderstanding. I never meant it. It was just jokes, wedding humor. The outside thing was obviously kidding. Who would actually— James cut in, addressing the room. You told him to sit in a snowstorm at Fortigav. That wasn't humor. Other guests murmured agreement. The mood turned completely. The woman from my relegated table stood up. He put all the bride's family back here by the kitchen like we weren't good enough. Another voice. The valet parking, the separate seating, the dress code comments. Witnesses were coming forward now, each remembering small cruelties they'd previously dismissed as status-seeking. Nicholas was spinning, trying to find an ally. Someone back me up here. This is being blown out of proportion. His parents were frozen, their own social calculation visible in their faces. Defend their son or preserve their own reputation? Linda Whitmore chose her reputation, turning on Cora, her voice sharp with accusation. You let us humiliate ourselves. You watched us insult a millionaire at our own son's wedding. Cora was sobbing now, hands over her face, shoulders shaking. Nicholas tried to approach her. She pulled away, a decisive move that snapped the invisible tether between them. I spoke not to Nicholas, but to the room. I came to my daughter's wedding. I sat where I was told. I stayed quiet while being mocked. Not because I'm weak, but because I wanted everyone to see the truth. You wanted to know if I was worthy of your elite company, Nicholas? I looked at him, my expression a mirror of the condescension he'd shown me earlier. Turns out you needed to prove you were worthy of mine. You failed. I turned to leave, walking through the center of the ballroom this time. Guests parted to let me through. Several nodded respectfully as I passed. James touched my arm, his face apologetic. I'm sorry, Orval. I didn't understand. You understand now. That's what matters. Marcus appeared at my side near the exit. The papers. Tomorrow morning. Let tonight settle first. I nodded and crossed the threshold, down the steps into the falling snow. Reached my F-150 as snowflakes collected on my shoulders. The familiar solidity of the truck was a relief. I started the engine. Through the falling snow, I could see figures in the windows, silhouettes arguing, gesturing, one small silhouette separated from the others, moving fast toward the main doors. Cora was coming after me. I pulled out my phone, and the screen lit up with a text from Marcus. She's coming. Don't answer tonight. Let her think. The morning after the wedding, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Nicholas called 4 more times before I finally answered the 5th. I was at my kitchen table, coffee cooling in my favorite mug, the morning sun streaming through the window. I picked it up. Orval, please, we need to talk. Last night was— I made a terrible mistake. Nicholas's voice was desperate, trembling with a mix of anger and raw, genuine fear. He was alone somewhere, probably hiding in a bathroom or office. The alcohol, the stress of the wedding. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're drinking. You understand that, right? I said nothing, letting him fill every pause with increasingly desperate explanations. The business contacts, the reputation damage. Do you know what this does to me professionally? People I've worked with for years saw that. They're calling, asking questions, making assumptions. His anxiety sounded like a buzzing wire under tension. I'm trying to make this right, to explain, to apologize. Are you finished? My voice was slow, steady. I'm trying to apologize here. No, you're trying to manage damage. There's a difference. Silence on his end. Then, I need you to— People think I cut him off. They think exactly what you showed them. That's not my problem to fix. What happened between you and Cora is between you and Cora, not my business anymore. Before hanging up, I added the final beat of the trap. By the way, Cora received her wedding gift yesterday, documents transferring ownership of all 12 Hicks Auto Service locations to her name. Completely legal. My attorney handled everything. I heard a sharp intake of breath on the line. What? 12 locations? You gave her $8.5 million worth of business? Yes, it's hers now. I ended the call. I immediately phoned Marcus. He knows about the transfer. Took him less than 12 hours. Marcus's voice went grim. Based on what you told me about his $45,000 loan, days, not weeks. Money makes people impatient. The test has truly begun. I settled in to wait. Over the next week, I received brief texts from Cora. Nicholas is acting strange. He keeps asking about the business paperwork. He wants to meet with our accountant. That possessive pronoun was notable. He's being really attentive. Too attentive. Something feels wrong. I didn't respond. I let her observe and process on her own. Nicholas had switched from contempt to excessive interest overnight. No genuine affection, just transparent greed wrapped in false concern. A week after the wedding, Cora arrived unannounced at my house. She drove Nicholas's BMW, parking it crookedly in the driveway. She looked exhausted, her face pale. She walked in without knocking, exactly like she did when she was young and needed comfort. Dad, we need to talk. She sat at the kitchen table, her shoulders slumping. Nicholas has been completely different ever since you told him about the business. Her voice broke. He wants me to sign papers making the shop's marital property. Says it's about trust and partnership. He's drawn up documents, had his own lawyer prepare them, keeps pushing me to sign. She looked up at me, her eyes raw. This was a test, wasn't it? You wanted to see what he'd do. I pulled out the original conditional gift contract, slid it across the table, and pointed to the bold language. If your marriage lasts 3 years, the business is permanently yours. But if you divorce before then, everything reverts to me. Nicholas can't touch it either way. She stared at the words. You built a trap for him to prove what he really wants. I built a mirror so you could see clearly. Her finger traced the 3-year clause. So if I divorce him now, you get everything back. Yes. And if I stay with him knowing what he is, I get to keep millions but live a lie. I let her sit with that impossible choice. I stood and rinsed my coffee cup. I can't answer that, Cora. This is your decision, your life, your marriage. I watched her, waiting for the girl who helped me rebuild engines to resurface. Finally, she looked up, her eyes wet but hardening. I need time to think. I gave her 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the pressure to reach maximum capacity. 2 weeks for Nicholas's true nature to fully eclipse the illusion he'd built. Those 2 weeks revealed everything. Cora called me 3 times, each conversation shorter than the last, each confirming the predicted trajectory. The first call, he's making spreadsheets about the business, profit projections, expansion plans. Keeps saying, we need to modernize. We should leverage the assets. We could sell half and invest. Always we, never acknowledging it was solely hers. The second call. The tone grew darker. He got angry when I said I wanted to wait before making any decisions, asked why I'm being difficult, said I'm being ungrateful after everything he's done. I heard the click of her jaw over the phone. Her resistance was costing her. The third call, her voice different, colder, clearer, detached. I told him no, definitively. No shared ownership, no signing documents, no business decisions without me learning the operation first. She described his reaction without emotion. He stopped pretending, just stopped, started yelling about wasted opportunities, stupid decisions, how I don't understand what I have. She paused, the memory sharp. He said marrying me was supposed to be his breakthrough, his entry into real wealth. Called me a disappointment, just like my mechanic father. That phrase, the same contempt now turned on her, was the final trigger. I'm done, Dad. I need a divorce attorney. Can I use Marcus? I texted her his number immediately. The lesson was paid in full. Marcus took her case, moving quickly. We'll file this week. Colorado allows no-fault divorce, but given the circumstances, we can expedite. Nicholas attempted to fight. He filed counterclaims, demanding portions of the alleged marital assets. His lawyer argued the $8.5 million business gift should be considered marital property because the marriage had begun. Marcus demolished every argument. Gift made pre-marriage, documentation solid. The conditional gift deed signed and notarized explicitly prevented spousal claims if the marriage dissolved within 3 years. Nicholas tried everything: mediation demands, settlement negotiations, threatening litigation. Each attempt failed against the ironclad contract Marcus had drafted years earlier. By mid-September, the divorce finalized. The marriage had lasted barely 2 months. The conditional contract's reversion clause activated automatically. All 12 Hicks Auto Service shops returned to my ownership. The social and financial consequences for Nicholas began immediately. I heard through James Sullivan what happened professionally. "People are calling him the guy who insulted a millionaire at his own wedding," James told me over coffee. Nicholas's consulting firm quietly suggested he seek opportunities elsewhere. His parents were embarrassed, distancing themselves publicly from the whole debacle. The $45,000 wedding loan came due. No Cora, no business, no money. Still the debt. Everything Nicholas wanted to achieve through the marriage was lost. Everything he'd mocked me for having was now his own desperate reality. He was actually struggling, actually broke and professionally damaged. Nicholas had bet everything on the appearance of wealth and lost it all to the quiet, documented certainty of my success. The test was over, but the rebuilding had just begun for my daughter. Late September afternoon, I was working at my original shop in Littleton, the one I'd opened 40 years ago. 12 service bays, hydraulic lifts, diagnostic equipment humming with work. I pulled an inventory spreadsheet up on the small office computer, the noise of the shop floor a familiar rhythm. Cora arrived. She looked different, stronger, clearer-eyed. She wore simple slacks and a decent jacket, not the expensive, unfamiliar perfume from months ago. We walked through the facility together. I explained the operational flow. She listened now, asked real questions about inventory turnover and technician certification. We sat in the small, cluttered office where I'd started, drinking coffee from the same pot I'd used for decades. I slid new documents across the desk. Full ownership transfer. No conditions this time. "It's yours for real now," I said. "No tests, no clauses. You've earned it." She started to cry, but they were different tears. Not of shame or confusion, but of release. "I'm so sorry for everything. For choosing him, for being ashamed." I stopped her. "You learned, Cora. That's what matters. Most people never figure out the difference between what glitters and what's actually gold." She wiped her eyes, her gaze steady. "I thought success meant impressing people like Nicholas, people with the right clothes, the right connections. I was so stupid." "You were young," I said. "Now you're learning. There's a difference." She looked down at the documents, her fingers brushing the paper. "Will you teach me about the business? I mean, really teach me. Not just the paperwork, but the actual work." I stood, walked to the hook behind the door, and grabbed 2 sets of coveralls. I tossed one to her. "First lesson starts now. We've got a transmission to rebuild in Bay 3. She caught the coveralls, holding them like something precious. We sat in that office for another hour first, discussing expansion plans, market opportunities, and operational improvements. She had ideas, good ones, smart observations about customer service and building loyalty. At some point, she asked about the F-150 parked outside. "Still driving it every day. Runs perfectly. I take care of what's mine." She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. "I didn't build this business to prove anything to anyone," I told her. "I built it because I'm good at what I do, and I treat people right. That's the only success that matters." We walked out onto the shop floor together, father and daughter, both knowing what matters now. The gold, not the gilding. She pulled on the coveralls, ready to get her hands dirty, and walked toward the bay, ready to rebuild more than just an engine. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.